I was in the kitchen, stirring the pot of soup I had made for dinner. Jack, my sister's ex-husband, was sitting on the couch, watching TV. His kids were playing in the other room, their laughter echoing through the house. It felt so normal, so right. I walked over and sat next to him, close enough to feel his warmth. Without thinking, I leaned in, and before I knew it, our lips touched. I leaned back, feeling a surge of emotions I hadn't expected. Jack's lips were warm, soft, and familiar in a way that made my heart race. He pulled away slightly, his eyes locking onto mine, as if searching for any sign to stop. I didn't want to stop. I reached up, cupping his face with my hand, and brought him back to me. Our kiss deepened, slow and exploring, like we were discovering something new and precious between us. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me closer until I was practically in his lap. My heart pounded. My breath came out in short gasps as his hand slid up my back, drawing me into him. I could feel the tension melting away, replaced by a warmth that spread through my whole body. We moved together, in sync, as if every touch, every brush of skin was saying the things we hadn't been able to put into words. The room around us blurred. The only thing that mattered was this moment. I tangled my fingers in his hair, sighing against his mouth as he gently traced his lips along my jawline. It was tender, almost reverent, and it left me feeling breathless. We made love, and then fell asleep in each other's embrace. Let me back up a bit. My name is Marie, and yes, I'm the sister of Jack's ex-wife, Rachel. Rachel and Jack married young, but it didn't take long for things to fall apart. Rachel made some bad choices, got involved with the wrong crowd, and eventually left him and the kids. I watched him from the sidelines as Jack struggled to pick up the pieces and build a new life for himself and his children. He was strong, but I could see the loneliness in his eyes. I felt sorry for him. I couldn't help it. I started visiting him more often, mostly to help with the kids. At first, I just wanted to be there for them all, especially for my niece and nephew who missed their mother. Jack always looked so tired, so broken. I couldn't stand it. I began cooking for them, helping with the kids' homework, and just being there. Somewhere along the way, my pity turned into something more. One night, after a long day of helping Jack with the kids, we sat down with a glass of wine. The house was silent, except for the occasional creak of the wooden floor as the kids slept. We talked about everything, our childhood, our dreams, and even our fears. He shared stories about Rachel, their happy moments before it all went wrong. I felt a pang of guilt, but also a strange sense of connection with him. He looked at me with those sad, tired eyes, and I couldn't help but reach out and hold his hand. The warmth of his touch sent a jolt through me, but I quickly pulled away, feeling confused. Weeks went by, and Jack and I grew closer. I told myself it was just friendship. He was lonely and I was just trying to help. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I began looking forward to our late night talks, the quiet dinners, and the way he would smile at me when I came over. I felt guilty, knowing this was my sister's ex-husband. But wasn't she the one who left? She had hurt him so much, and I was just picking up the pieces she had shattered. One evening, things changed. I was at Jack's place as usual, cooking dinner while he helped the kids with their homework. I watched him as he laughed and joked with them, and my heart ached. Here was a man who had been through so much, yet he was still so loving, so kind. After dinner, when the kids were in bed, we sat on the couch, the room filled with a heavy silence. My heart was pounding, and I could hardly breathe as I felt the weight of his gaze on me. Jack reached out, his hand hesitating in the air before finally resting on mine. His touch sent a spark through me, lighting up emotions I had tried so hard to ignore. I looked up at him, my eyes betraying everything I was feeling. Before I could say anything, he leaned in, his lips capturing mine in a kiss that felt like it had been waiting forever to happen. It wasn't a planned kiss, it just happened, and it felt so right. My heart raced, my head spun, and all the guilt and confusion I had been feeling melted away. The kiss was soft at first, a gentle brush of lips that left me dizzy. Then it grew deeper, more intense, as if we were both pouring every unsaid word, every hidden feeling into that moment. He pulled me closer, his arms circling my waist, and I felt myself melting into him. The warmth of his body, the way he held me like I was something precious, it made my heart race and my skin tingle. His hand slid up to cup my face, tilting my head as he kissed me again. Slower this time. I shivered, my body reacting to every touch, every whispered breath between us. I moved my hands to his shoulders, gripping onto him like he was my anchor in a storm. Our movements became slower, more tender, each one lingering as we lost ourselves in the quiet intimacy of the moment. Then he led himself into me and we made love. I had never felt a man the way I felt Jack that night. But things didn't stay simple for long. As our secret relationship grew, so did the fear. What if Rachel found out? What would people say? I tried to keep my feelings in check, but every time I looked at Jack, I felt my heart swell. He was so different from anyone I had ever been with, so gentle, so caring. And he needed me, maybe even more than I needed him. One day, as we sat together in his living room, he turned to me and said, "Marie, I can't keep pretending anymore. I love you." His words hit me like a wave, washing over all the doubt and fear I had been carrying. I felt tears prick at the corner of my eyes. "I love you too," I whispered back, my voice trembling. For a moment, everything felt perfect. We had found something beautiful in the middle of all the chaos. But then, the storm hit. It was a week later when Rachel found out. I don't know how she knew, but one morning, my phone rang and it was her. She screamed and cried, calling me every name in the book. "How could you do this to me?" she yelled. I tried to explain, to tell her that she was the one who left, that she had broken his heart long before I came into the picture, but she wouldn't listen. I hung up, my hands shaking. I felt like a horrible person. I looked at Jack, who had heard the entire conversation, and saw the worry in his eyes. "We'll get through this," he said, taking my hands in his. I wanted to believe him, but I knew things would never be the same. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of drama and pain. My family found out, and some of them turned their backs on me. Others were supportive, saying that Rachel had lost her right to be upset when she abandoned Jack and the kids. But the tension was unbearable. I started questioning everything. Was this worth it? Was our love strong enough to survive the storm?